Liberate IT is an Oracle NetSuite solution provider that has been servicing Australian and New Zealand companies since 2011.
Well, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to the latest of our webinar series. Today, we've got the team from Me. They're going to present for us Acton. Acton's a marketing tool designed to help you grow your sales, new client acquisition, but also to also look after your customers. A little bit unusually, usually we ask a third party like Me to come in and talk to you because we've one of our customers have had a good experience with them. In this case, it's a little bit different. We've been using Acton now for, I think, close to a year, and the Me team have implemented that for us. So we're really pleased with Acton and what it's done for our business. So we thought, hey, maybe our customers could also benefit from the same thing. So we really look forward to presenting that today. So today, I am your host only, Andrew Liniger, Relationship Manager. There's my contact details if you need me. Today, we'll be going through just a handful of Liberate IT updates. I'll be going through some NetSuite updates, and then we'll get going with Tom from Me, and then you'll get me again at the end to wrap up. Just some housekeeping as always. We'll be recording today's session. We'll be posting that on our website and on YouTube. So if you do miss it today or you're in a little bit late and you missed the awesome intro, you can get on there and check that out. We'll be using the Q&A function today. I'll be monitoring any questions you have for Tom. So please do log those in as soon as the question pops into your mind. If it's relevant, I'll interrupt Tom while he's doing his thing. If not, we'll keep those to the end and we'll run through any unanswered questions there at the end. As always, there's a chat function. Would really ask you not to use that because I won't be monitoring that. Okay, some updates from our end. As I mentioned recently, all of our user events that were in person, both in Auckland and Brisbane, they're all wrapped up now. Thank you for everyone that attended those. They were really well received. What I like most of all about those is, as well as our team giving you all the information about the new releases and what's in those, and also the NetSuite team talking to you about the roadmap. It was great to see that networking happening amongst all those users. So I'd really like to encourage you to come along to the next one, which we've got scheduled in March. Details to follow early next year. Our slide deck from that presentation is available. If you're interested in it, do reach out to me. I'll just share it with you. And feel free to ask me any questions of that. Some upcoming webinars that we've got coming up, obviously, is the advanced PDFs. Our own Josh Gordon will be going through those. So if you've got some customer-facing forms like your invoice or your packing slip, for example, and you want to brush up on those, Josh will be able to give you a non-developer's perspective on how you can get started with that, which is great. Suite Commerce is also a new product that's coming in. I'll talk about that in just a second. I've got Stephen Rakusho from NetSuite at the end of November. He's going to come and present Suite Commerce to us all. So looking forward to both of those. And that will round out our webinars for the year. So it feels like we only just started these webinars for 2022, but here we are at the end. From NetSuite, the Suite World happened at the end of last month. That's all wrapped up. Would encourage you, if you haven't already, look at the opening keynote called Full Suite Ahead. That's available on YouTube, and also the product keynote, Innovation Ahead. Both of those combined give you a bit of an insight as to where NetSuite is heading overall as a business and as a product set, and how they think they can help customers with their own business. So do check those out. So yeah, they're very interesting. The NetSuite 22.2 release is now complete. Feels like I've been talking about that for quite some time. I think it was August that it starts, and now it's October. The last of that, all the customers should now be updated. So happy days there. So NetSuite have a few new modules available for sale. So it would be remiss of me not to talk to you about those. My account is what I demoed 2 weeks ago in my last webinar. It was awesome. Go check that out if you missed it. They have a 10 days for activation. So that's a portal into NetSuite for your customers with a modern look and feel, which will eventually replace that free customer portal that very much looks like NetSuite, which is not great for your customers. So something worth considering. Suite Commerce, which is what we'll have NetSuite presenting next month. A templated approach. They've got different themes, such as a summit theme and bridge theme and a few others, really designed for different types of organizations. Here's a couple more different themes. 30 days for activation to get a new B2B transactional website happening. And I would encourage you to check that out if that's something that you're looking to explore. The team at NetSuite can get those up and running for you very quickly and efficiently, and allow you to start transacting with your customers with a modern looking and polished website. Just to position those things, Suite Commerce that I just mentioned is fairly new to our region. It's only been available for a month or two now. And Suite Commerce Advanced has actually been ironically around for the market for years and years. What we like about Suite Commerce is that it upgrades like NetSuite does. So you're always on the latest version of Suite Commerce. Whereas Suite Commerce Advanced, it's a manual process to upgrade to the latest version to get access to the latest tools that they have. The trade-off with that is there's no access to under the hood or to the source code of that. So more of a templated, quick to market, but still built on the same framework and secure and reliable, which is great. Lastly, Smart Count is a standalone solution. Even if you don't have a warehouse management tool within your warehouse for receiving and picking, but you're wanting to streamline that stock take process, NetSuite have got a new feature called Smart Count, where on a mobile device, your team can do that real-time stock take within the business. What I like about it is that it tracks what has been sold or transferred from the beginning of the stock take process to the end, so that even if goods have been moved and shipped out the door, the count is still accurate. So do check that out. That's not very expensive. It's quite a nifty little tool, that one. So that's it for the new release of NetSuite. We're looking forward to some more that you might be able to take advantage of next year. In the meantime, if you've got a company-wide Learning Cloud support pass, in addition to the webinars that we do here at Liberate, NetSuite themselves have some training workshops. You'll see here are some upcoming workshops that they have available. Big focus there on finance and on reporting. No surprises there. Do get in touch with me if that's something that you might be interested in getting access to. I think finance teams in particular would get a lot out of this. All that being said, I'm now going to introduce Tom from Optimate Me. Tom has helped us getting Acton as a solution here at not NetSuite, Liberate I.T. Our sales and marketing teams seem to really enjoy it and love what we can get out of that. So really pleased that we've got Tom here to share all that with you. So Tom, g'day. How are you?
Very good, mate. How are you?
Excellent, thanks.
You hear me okay?
Over to you. Yeah, great.
Cool. I'm just going to share my screen 2 secs.
The weather here is we finally got some sun in Sydney. How about there in Auckland, Tom?
Yeah, I think we got your rain this weekend forecast, I think.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for that. Just confirming you can see my screen okay?
We got you.
Nice. Okay. So thanks, Andrew, for those kind words. Hi, team. I guess within the attendees today, there's a bunch of different people with different interests, but today I'm talking about marketing. So obviously, NetSuite's an ERP-focused product with some marketing capability, but I think you'll find that there are probably better solutions in terms of proper marketing. And so the product that we've implemented for Andrew and Liberate is a product called Acton. And I'm going to run through high level what it does, how the integration with NetSuite works. It's got a really nice, easy to use connector with NetSuite. Show you a bit of a live demo, talk about some use cases involved with the platform. Where would you apply it? how do you create money from it, and take you through a couple of case studies that we've got here at Optimate Me. So without further ado, I will kick off. Happy to answer any questions. So we can do that at the end or during, it doesn't really mind. No problem at all. Okay, we've actually only just changed our name to Optimate.me. We were known as Cloud Tech in New Zealand and Australia for the last 10 years. So we've just been through a bit of a rebranding process. Optimate Me is really about optimize and automate. I think it actually was originally a Greek word used to describe some kind of civil servant in the government in Greece a long time ago. So we've reclaimed the word. So yeah, so basically our vision is to help clients scale with software. Probably fair to say at the front end of the business, not the back end of the business. So we're very well aligned with Liberate because they are functionally the other side of the coin. So we focus on sales and marketing, and they're focusing on obviously accounting, invoicing, stock, etc., etc., etc. And our aim is really to cut out some of the the layer of optimism about particular products in the market and provide some transparent advice and to help organizations grow. We have a policy of having products across 3 platforms, so marketing, sales, and service. And so in the marketing space, we have our prominent product is Acton, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. But we've also got other products such as Sugar, PipeDrive, and Zendesk across those 3 different pillars. Some of our customers, we operate in New Zealand and Australia, clients in the UK and also Indonesia as well. So what is Acton? So Acton is a marketing automation platform with a whole bunch of capability. And it's probably worth just taking a backdrop and just taking a step back in terms of marketing, because a lot of organizations start with what you might call a slightly spasmodic approach to marketing, where they'll go and employ a MailChimp, or they might send out the occasional newsletter. And as they get bigger and they get more mature, they want to do that in more of an automated way, and they want to do more with it. And so you're going to go from this kind of phase 1 baby business approach to marketing to slightly growing up and maturing and getting tools that do this stuff for you, make it easier for you. And that's where Acton comes in. It's pretty well priced. So it's not the most expensive marketing automation solution that you can purchase. And that's the likes of Eloqua and Marketo. They're really quite expensive, but very capable. And it's not the low end. So it's positioned nicely in the middle of the space. It has a whole bunch of capability focused on lead generation, better marketing, brand awareness, engagement across the customer lifecycle, and a whole bunch of tools that let you use that. And it's worth saying that you don't need to be particularly technical to use the tool. You can go to things like CSS and style sheets. I've actually got a colleague here, Cesar, to help me technically, who's joined as a panelist, but mostly it's just drag and drop in terms of configuration of the automation campaigns in the email. So before I dig into show you the actual product itself, I just want to say a couple of things about Acton's strategy. So Acton have a strategy of being the best marketing automation platform in the world. Obviously, that's one of their aspirations. But they have an agnostic strategy because they built very nice integrations with most of the go-to CRMs and ERPs that exist today. So there's an integration with Sugar, there's an integration with Dynamics, there's an integration with NetSuite. And this integration isn't just a kind of third-party integration. It's an integration built via the API between Acton and NetSuite. And it means that there's a big advantage because you can get up and running really, really quickly. And you can expose most of the key data that exists in NetSuite back into Acton to make sure your segmentation is a lot easier. So I'm just going to dig down a bit on that, and I'll tell you what I mean. So I'll be able to show you this in a minute because I can show you the way that we use it. But functionally, to connect Acton to NetSuite, you simply need to basically key in your NetSuite password via the connector. And once you give your NetSuite password, the data starts to flow between the 2 systems, and it's bidirectional. And you can see on the bottom right screen in front of you, Acton is taking data affiliated with leads, prospects, and customers from NetSuite. And that data can be pulled in on a regular basis and pushed from Acton to NetSuite as well on a regular basis. So from a segmentation perspective, it means the marketing person in your business doesn't need to go into NetSuite to do the segmentation. Quite an important point, because if you're going to do things like triggered campaigns and automation programs, you need to have some kind of degree of automation. I'll run through that in a minute. But basically, it's a real dream for marketers to get the data they need. And that's always been a problem for marketers, both in terms of getting the data. People were probably well aware of having to access a NetSuite for a bunch of data, import it into Excel or MailChimp or Campaign Monitor, send the campaign, worry about spam rules, what happens if somebody unsubscribes, manually update the spreadsheet before you load back in again. That problem all completely goes away. So for example, if somebody decides to unsubscribe from an Acton campaign, that Acton campaign unsubscribe list will unsubscribe the contact email address inside NetSuite automatically. So that whole problem about spam regulation basically goes away. What it basically means for the marketer, and again, I can show you this probably in a minute, is that from a perspective of the segmentation, you can see that the marketer can create quite detailed, personalized segments. Segments are functionally audiences that you're sending the marketing messages to. So on the top right hand side, you can see, for example, there's an example of somebody that has clicked on a message at least once, has submitted a form, has visited a web page, and you can combine these. So you can say if somebody's visited my website 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and they're a prospect, or somebody that's visited the website 3 times in the last 2 weeks and they're a customer, you might choose to say that the messaging to those audiences needs to be different. This is all about personalization and relevance. If the messaging is personal and relevant, you're going to get a good outcome, and the outcome expresses itself not necessarily in opens or in clicks and submits on the forms that you build. Okay, so I'm going quite quickly, but there's good stuff with this integration. So what else does the integration do? So I talked about the way that the integration makes it easier for marketing professionals in Acton to use it, but it also has a really nice interface for the actual users inside NetSuite. So for example, you can see here that this is a view of NetSuite, and on the right hand side, there's an Acton activity history. And what it basically means is that the people that are using NetSuite can see all the marketing activity that's being created by the marketing team. So they can see the website opens, they can see the emails that have been sent, they can actually click on the email and see what the email is all about, which basically means that often you have marketing teams and sales teams that are not particularly well coordinated. This brings the two teams together because we can see some degree of tangibility about the campaigns that have been created. We can also create things like alerts. So if the sales guys want to know if their particular customers or prospects are on the website, you can create dynamic alerts for the salespeople. So a whole bunch of really good stuff, bringing that data back into NetSuite. Okay.
Hey Tom, I've got a quick question for you, if I may, from Leslie.
All right. Yeah.
Well, Leslie just wants to double check that the integration will work with contacts, not just at a customer level or prospect level.
Yeah. So that's a very good question. So thank you, Leslie. So when I talked about those entities, I talked about leads, prospects, and customers. The contacts are people that are associated with those accounts or associated with those leads. So Acton is only really bringing in email addresses, and email addresses only really relate to contacts. So Leslie, you're correct. It's contacts associated with a parent, which is a prospect, or a parent, which is a customer, etc. Does that make some sense?
Does to me. Thanks, Tom.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm just going to stop here, and I'm going to open up a live demo so we can show you what it actually looks like and take it from there. Okay, so hopefully you should be able to see a Acton screen now. Is that correct?
That's right.
Good. So I've actually got 2 tabs open here. I've got my Acton screen. I've also got our Sugar CRM screen. Not that one there. Sorry, this one here. So I'm showing you this because our Acton system is connected to our Sugar system. We don't use NetSuite. We don't have a particularly complex business process. We don't have physical assets. We use Xero, so we don't need a NetSuite. But functionally, it's the same kind of concept, right? You'd have Acton sitting alongside NetSuite. I'm just going to show you this as ours is connected. So this is the homepage for Acton. And basically on the left-hand side is the navigation. So there's a whole bunch of functions and features here that I can show you, but I'm just going to scroll down and go all the way to the bottom and go to settings. So if I click on settings inside here, you'll see that there's a function here called connectors. So this is just a copy of the screen I showed you earlier. And you can see you've got all these integrations from a CRM perspective, but also a bunch of other things. So web analytics, Google, et cetera, but for me to connect Acton to your NetSuite instance, I basically put in my username and my password and save it. It's that easy, right? So in effect, what happens when we do that is that via the API, we're connecting Acton to the NetSuite instance. At the other end, you need to load a module into NetSuite, which is the Acton module, which is really quite easy to do. It's about 5 minutes work. Once you've done that, the two are glued quite nicely together. So what does that mean? What it basically means is I've then got the ability to do data management. So if I click on data management side here, you'll see, once it refreshes, that I can bring in data from the different entities. Now, don't forget that I'm showing you our sugar system, and it might be slightly different to your NetSuite system, but functionally it's the same kind of thing. So you can see I can bring in all data against leads. I can bring in all data against contacts, et cetera. And when I say bring in all the data, what I'm really talking about is basically choosing the fields I want inside my system. And so you'll have a bunch of fields against your objects. Some of those will be standard NetSuite fields, some will be custom NetSuite fields, and they'll be very important. You may have fields such as product preference, gold, silver, bronze, industry, et cetera. And you need those fields into Acton to make the decision as regards your marketing segmentation. So that can all be done nice and easily. So what happens then is once you've got your data in, you then click on a sync schedule. And this is basically where we end up syncing the data between the two systems. So you can see here, so we're on a custom sync and we sync at 12 o'clock at night, but that could be every hour. I think Liberate sync their data every hour. So you're probably thinking, well, why do they need to sync data then? So the reason that syncing data is quite important is that you might decide to create what you call automated programs inside Acton. So rather than doing a one-off campaign that generates an email and provides an offer, you might want to do that in slightly more of an intelligent way and run some automated campaigns, such as an event, such as a lead scoring process. And what happens within the automation program is basically once a customer ends up in a particular criteria in NetSuite, let's say they move from a prospect to a customer, or say their title is director, whatever the case may be, once that flag is checked in NetSuite, that's added automatically into Acton and then added automatically into the campaign, which is automated. So other examples might be surveys, for example. So when a project goes live or a job is completed, we might want to survey the customer and ask them what they think about the experience, right? Makes good sense. But we could do that in a completely automated way. One of our customers is a car rental company, and all the association bookings for the car rental are done in an automated way. They're actually just about to switch on SMS because they're finding that the SMS breakthrough is bigger. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, I've got SMS functions inside Acton as well, so I can combine automation with SMS, which is quite nice. So I'm just going to have a quick sip of coffee and take a teeny bit break. Okay.
While you're doing that, Tom, I've got another question that's come through. In connecting to NetSuite, does that user in NetSuite need to have administrator access levels?
Yes.
Yep. Great.
Yep.
Thought so. Thank you.
Another question?
No, that's it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I showed you some of the technical stuff behind the scenes underneath the system, and that's all very easy to use. How does that translate to what the marketer might actually do? So on the left-hand side here, I've got home, contacts, content, inbound, and again, there's a whole bunch of stuff inside here, but I'm just going to start with contacts and talk about the list generation process. So if I click on marketing lists, you'll see that this is our system. So there's a whole bunch of folders in here. And we've tried to make sure that the folders sit in logical processes. We can see drip campaigns, surveys, etc., etc., etc. But you can see here that we've pulled in 4,600 contacts from our sugar system into Acton. And then what we've done is our marketing professionals have created sub-segments off the back of that master list. So for example, all emails where account is prospect, the opportunities in the last 3 months. For example, all emails where account is customer or customer lapsed or partner or prospect. So that question earlier was a good question. When we say all emails, that means all contacts whose parent association is a customer or a lapsed customer. Make sense? So it's very easy to create segments. So I can go, for example, here, and I can create a segment. So I'm just going to say, give this a test, Liberate test, and I can combine these really nice expressions. So for example, the first expression might be, I want to use a CRM field. So here I might say, okay, what I want to use is, let's say, for example, we're going to use industry. So for example, let's say I want to send this to finance. Then I might want to combine another expression. And this time, rather than the industry, I might want to decide on the behavior. So I might say in the last 10 days, they have clicked on a message, viewed a form, visited a landing page, attended an event, etc. So I can be quite granular about the segmentation that I run for these campaigns. I'm not going to do that because it's live data, but you kind of get the point. So basically what I'm able to do is create these marketing lists. And once I've created the marketing lists, I'm able to then do things with them. And I'm going to go into that in a minute. Just one more thing on the lists front as well. Inside Acton, we have something called ABM. And ABM is basically account-based marketing. So I'm just going to click inside here, go to accounts. And for those organizations that have joined us today that are B2B, this is quite interesting. Because what it basically means is I've got the ability to work out from an account perspective, i.e. the business as a whole, where my supporters are. So for example, if I just go like this and search for one of our clients, which is called Avanti. There's Avanti Finance. And what this is doing is giving me a rolled up view of all the different people in Avanti and all of their digital body language with Optimate.me. Sounds a bit complex, but you're going to get a view as to actually we've got a whole bunch of supporters here and we can see the various things that they've been doing as a business as a whole. Now that manifests itself in terms of the ability to start to work out from a vertical perspective where your focuses are. So you could focus, for example, you can create a view of agricultural clients that are supportive of you or people in particular industries. And so you can start focusing on the account rather than the individuals. But either way, it's got both those functions. So moving on. So what does it actually do for you? You've connected NetSuite to Acton. That's all tickety-boo. You've done your segmentation. You can segment very nicely inside Acton. You don't need to go to NetSuite. By the way, you can also import lists, one-off lists from NetSuite into Acton if you wanted to, nice and easily. Once you've basically got that moving, you've then got a whole bunch of stuff that you can do. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see catalog, email templates, landing pages, forms, progressive profiling, a whole bunch of stuff that starts simple and actually can get quite complex. And so, for example, if I just go to the catalog, there's a really nice library of existing components that you can use as a starting point. So these are all pre-existing built email campaigns. Same applies to a landing page, program. So you can search through the assets, decide where you want to start, and then just use that as a way of getting ahead quite quickly. And at Optimate.me, we will set these up for you as a starting point. So in terms of, well, let's say, okay, what are the first couple of campaigns are you going to do? And we'll build these campaigns for you. So you've got a degree of knowledge transfer, which makes it quite easy. If I click on the left-hand side here, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dig into some of the examples that we've done because it's not particularly we don't need to worry about security so much. So these are email templates. So I'm just going to give you an example of here, a template that we did for one of our customers called Oil Intel. And this is the process for creating an email template. So 3 simple steps. Step 1, what's the title, subject line, and who's it coming from and going to? Step 2, the design. So I can focus on what stationery do I want in my design. Once I've done my design, I can then focus on my content. And this is all drag and drop. So if you're used to drag and drop in Campaign Monitor or MailChimp, it will feel entirely the same. So rich text, media file downloads, images. I've also got a ability to put in personalized fields, business cards. Acton has something called dynamic content. And what dynamic content does is let you decide on one email template, but with different images or different sections based on who you're sending it to. So you might want to do one newsletter, for example, but if it's a prospect you're sending it to, you might want to change the images as opposed to whether it's a customer or not, as opposed to creating multiple email templates. So you run through your process and you'll notice that underneath here, I've got links I've built, and those links can either be on your website or they can be on landing pages hosted and run by Acton. And if I carry on scrolling down underneath here, I've also got my opt-outs, my address, etc., and my social profiles as well. So all looks nice and easy, quick to use. So that can be sent, that can be tested. We obviously encourage a fair amount of testing, so you can go to review, and then Acton will tell you whether or not this is correct and ready to go, or whether there's issues. And Acton are very keen on deliverability. So deliverability is quite important, and they have a very good reputation in the marketplace for not sending too much spam. So if there's spam, i.e. things like price discounts, blah, 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 they'll warn you in this messaging, which is quite nice. So that's the first thing to say. Email templates, very easy to build, and email templates can be used for one-off campaigns or automated campaigns. Okay. Next section is landing pages. So I presume you all know what a landing page is, but basically a landing page is the ability to create a page and host that page either embedded in your website or run and hosted locally on in Acton. Now, I'm just going to give you an example here. If I click inside here and go get public URL, I can then click on that and open up that page. So here's a newsletter that we did some time ago, etc., etc., etc. And you'll see that the URL did say marketing.cloudtech.co.nz, now it says marketing.automate.me because we've just changed. But that can be, that can support your company name, or that can be embedded in your website. So just on that, I'll just give you an example of what I mean by that. So one of our clients is Renault. And Renault have a book a test drive page here. So if you want to book a test drive on a Renault, there's a landing page. And that landing page is actually what it's going to do. It's going to take your data, and then it's going to then bring that data from the website directly into Acton, and then put that directly into the CRM. And then you'll get a phone call from Renault saying, hey, we know you're based in a particular county. Can we arrange a test drive? So all kind of quite mature, joined up thinking. Okay, so that's basically the landing page side of things. You'll notice that a landing page often has what's called a form in it, and a form is where you ask questions of the customer. Okay, and so for example here, we've used forms all over the place, but you can see we've got an example of a form here which we use for a survey, and I'll run through this a bit later, but you can see I can ask questions in the form. And even based on the answers to the questions, I can ask different questions as well to the form. So that's got a whole bunch of cool stuff in there. So a whole bunch of things. Again, on the landing page and the form, in terms of creating it, it's really very easy. So in the same way I was able to drag and drop as far as the design of the form was concerned for the email, same thing applies here. So 3 steps again, really easy to use. Define your properties, go to design, and then on the left-hand side, we can just drag and drop. So for those that are creative and marketing world, this is a real dream, really nice to use. You can actually store all your images inside Acton, or you can store your images inside Canva, where you might choose to modify and bring in, entirely up to you. Okay. Yes, I'm just conscious of time. So we talked about email templates, landing pages, and forms. And the final couple more things I want to show you is basically the automation program. So what the automation program does is basically functionally that you go on holiday functionally. So the marketing people can aspire to setting up these marketing programs, and then they will just run. It's called a set and forget program. So if I give an example, there's a go live survey program here, right? So if I click inside here, inside the program says 5 steps. The first step is the general settings. If I scroll down in here, you can see this is quite an important point, that I can basically run this program immediately or on a schedule or manually. Now, what happens is basically the program itself has some messages associated with it, and that's where you're going to add an email campaign or a number of email campaigns you've built earlier. And then the program itself is watching for lists and segments. And in effect, what happens is somebody enters the list, so a flag is ticked against the NetSuite contact, for example, that will automatically add that to the list, and then the program will monitor the list. And that's where that triggered campaign comes in. I've then got the ability to define a program flow. This is like a customer journey. So in this case, it's a very simple one. We're going to wait until contacts enter the segment, then we're going to send the survey, then we're going to exit the program. But we could say, for example, if they don't respond to the survey, we'll then send another email with a reminder, create a branch. I can change a field, send an alert, create back in NetSuite, for example. So it's worth noting that the integration is bidirectional. So you may, for example, want to do something called lead scoring, where you score people on the website and you say, okay, if they've been to the website and they downloaded a white paper, tickety boo, we're going to give them 20 points. That's a good hot lead for the sales guys to follow up. So at that point, we'll put into NetSuite as a new lead and then use a NetSuite workflow to tell the sales guy to follow up. So automated programs. So one more thing to say on the automated programs, I can also combine SMS with that function as well. So if I want to basically use SMS inside my automation program, I can do. Acton has a built-in integration with Twilio, and the SMS campaigns are pretty cost effective. And you'll find that with SMS, sometimes you get a bigger breakthrough, and obviously the open rates are quite high as well. Now, this is all very good, but basically what happens, you really want to know a bit more about how effective your campaigns have actually been. So if I click inside here and I go to send messages, I've got all the marketing and the reporting to my heart's content. I probably won't get the chance to run through all of the reporting inside Acton because it's pretty extensive, but for those that want a follow-up session, please feel free to talk to me separately. That's totally fine. But for example, here, you can see this is the rebranding we've just done for our launch of our new company name. So this has been well labeled. So you see version 1 of the email, who is Optimate Me for suppliers, partners, and prospects. Version 2 for lapsed customers, etc. And so, for example, I can click into here and I can drill down into the actual data. So there's the report. So what you're looking for here is basically click rates. Click rates indicate a fair amount of interest. And inside Acton is something called cookies. Now that's not chocolate biscuits. What it basically is basically if somebody comes to your website for the first time, we put a unique ID on their IP address. And as soon as we basically link the IP address to an email address, when we get an email address, they become a known visitor. So you're inside Acton, you'll see references to known versus unknown visitors. So because I know who these people are, because they've given us their email address, I can actually see what they're doing. So for example, here I can click on Alicia Stokes. I can go to Alicia Stokes and I can see all of her digital body language. What she's clicked, timeline of the whole thing, what she's opened, etc., etc., etc. Really powerful, really nice. And the really cool thing about it is that's also exposed back to your NetSuite contacts. I mentioned that earlier in the presentation as well. And so, for example, if I click inside here, and I'm opening up our sugar, which is functionally similar to your NetSuite. Here's a customer. He's moved on now, so it's okay for me to show you this, but he was the IT director for a finance company. And this is a view of the contact record. Okay. And then the right-hand side, I've got a view of his activity history. So the sales guys have got no complaints. They can see what's happening and they can see the interest it's generated. And I can even open up the email and see what it's all about. Etc., etc., etc. So yeah, so to summarize this part of the presentation, very easy, seamless integration with NetSuite. Exposes all of your data, has the capability of creating emails, landing pages, forms, SMS, automated programs, has images, has style guides, has a whole bunch of places to store your assets, very good reporting, and it will push that back, all that data back into NetSuite as well. So ticking the box, very nice. A couple of things in terms of the way it's structured pricing wise, it's based on the number of active contacts. And what that basically means is an active contact is a unique email address. But with Acton, it's not every single unique email address in your system. It's only the ones you choose to send to. So you could switch on an integration between NetSuite and Acton. You might bring in 500,000 contacts. You're only going to be charged for those that you send to. The second thing to say is that basically you can send more than once. So with an automated program, you might send somebody an email 3 times in a month. You're still only going to be charged once, which is quite unique for Acton. Okay, so I'm conscious of time. I'm just going to pop back to my presentation now and carry on with that. Okay. Okay, so hopefully I've got some of you marketing professionals thinking about where you could go with this. This is obviously, we've had 2 or 3 years of COVID and it hasn't been particularly easy to market. So we're now coming out of that. This is a great time to strike. And with a tool like Acton and a really nice customer profile with NetSuite, you've got a lot of potential, but you can do loads with it. So some of the questions that we get from customers are, where do I start? So there's newsletters, there's product offerings, there's surveys, there's trigger programs. So I just want to give you a couple of examples of things that are quite useful. First thing is something called a revenue lifecycle. So MQL to SQL. So some people might not be aware of what this actually means, but you can see in this rather poor image I've got in front of you, which I nicked off a colleague, the yellow row in the middle. An MQL is a marketing qualified lead and an SQL is a sales qualified lead. And what we're trying to do is embed a process within the organization to ensure that we have a marketing engine that simply runs. And so the MQL is basically about marketing doing their job of attracting and nurturing people to the website, show their interest, a bit like fishing. And the SQL process is basically where we're saying the sales guys should be qualifying the leads in a timely manner. Don't forget that speed of response is really important here. So you can measure that. And then SAL is a sales accepted lead. And that obviously would then go into NetSuite against an opportunity with your normal sales stages. And at the end of the sales stage, you've got a job or a project or something to deliver. Getting to the point where you can basically have this engine running through the application is really, really powerful. The second thing to say is basically you don't need to use Acton just necessarily for lead generation. You might want to use it across the customer lifecycle. You might want to use it for a renewal or for a survey or to get some feedback from a customer. So I'm just going to quickly dive and show you that very quickly. And so obviously we use Sugar CRM and we have a module here called a project. So I can click on a project. Here's some current projects. And you can see against this particular projects tab, we have a custom field called a project owner. So for example, this might be a lady called Melissa, who's their marketing GM, and then I've got a go live survey here. Now I'm not going to press it because I haven't gone live yet, but if I did, this would update the field against the contact and then send that to the list inside Acton, and then she would get the survey results, as I just showed you earlier. So that's the way we've managed to get simple checkboxes inside the CRM ERP interacting with the marketing communication messaging. It's worth saying as well as we can bring some of that data back into NetSuite as well, theoretically, so we can create some of those scores associated with their case or their incident or delivery, etc. Okay. Okay, so hopefully that's got you thinking about where you could start. Here's some other examples of customers and what they're doing with it. So this is a customer called Trans Tasman Business Circle, and they run events, enterprise level events, and they're using a website to make all their bookings, and they use Acton to provide follow-ups in terms of the events, RSVPs, when to attend, etc. And all the data sits inside Sugar. Quite complex, but you can see on the left-hand side, that's the example of the automated program. So send the confirmation, wait 15 minutes, check again, etc., 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 etc. It's quite a nice use of the application. Here's another example of a client using it. This is a company called Easy Car Rental. They have been using Acton for some time, and they use Acton mostly for their automated program for their car rental bookings. So you can see here that inside their system, they have rented agreements, and they have bookings. And the right-hand side, we have the example of the automation track, where we're in effect triggering different emails at certain times. To make things even more complex, here's an example of the email. We have a whole bunch of what you call personalized merge fields in the email. So for example, the image of the car. So for example, the name of the car, the pickup, the return date. These are key critical bits of data that have to be inside the email. And that data sits inside the CRM, not inside Acton. But with the integration, we can pull the data from the CRM into Acton and then embed it in personalization fields in the emails that we're sending. Really smart. There's a quote from Jeremy at Acton, talking about how well he likes using the system. There's another customer of ours called Kiwi Property. They own a lot of the larger shopping centres in New Zealand, and their business strategies are around encouraging foot traffic into the centres. And so they create branded emails, they run events, and basically each of the marketing managers at the centre creates their own email templates and then sends centrally from within Acton. Another client, Hunting and Fishing. Hunting and Fishing, you'll probably well know, they sell a whole bunch of hunting and fishing stuff around New Zealand, big retail outlet. They're modernising. They were a teeny bit antiquated, but they're now getting to the point that they've actually got people buying stuff off the website, and they're using marketing tools to try and encourage online purchases, etc. There's a quote from the marketing manager at Hunt and Fish. And finally, there's another client of ours called Advanced Floors, and they set up these flooring products across 3 different brands, and they're using it for newsletters, updates, promotions, and they're just about to add in something called lead nurturing as well. So I'm conscious of time. I think that's about right, and so I've said quite a lot. So I'll just stop and take a pause. And,
that's great, Tom.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
so much. Got no questions that have popped through just yet, but I have a habit of cutting people off a bit early. So, and I'm also accused of having comments rather than questions. So here's my comment. So Liberate IT, from a yes for a new business point of view, the team in sales and marketing use it, but also from my point of view, we use it for our newsletters, which I'm not allowed to call a newsletter. It's our info hub, which goes out each month. We use Acton for that particular communication campaign, and also this very webinar we've used Acton to promote it and get people along, as well as our live events and promote those. So yeah, a real good balance there between, yes, we want to try and attract new customers into the business, but also how do we look after effectively existing customers that are already with us, right? And communicate effectively when there's just me in the business and you need to have a broader reach than me sitting down and doing.
You haven't got an army of digital soldiers, have you? So basically,
no.
what Acton becomes is in effect that. So you've got a customer life cycle, and you support. You have touch points across the journey, and those touch points can be automated.
Yeah. A question from anonymous attendee, which I love, Mr. Anonymous. The question is, do you have customers using the NetSuite CRM? And I guess I've already answered that one, being Liberate IT. So we have Acton integrated into NetSuite both ways for all of our campaigns, and obviously what the new business guys do there. Any other customers that have NetSuite, Tom?
Yeah, lots, particularly in America. But we're obviously not a NetSuite provider, so most of our organizations are using Sugar. Some are using Salesforce, some are using Microsoft. But the integration layer,
all terrible systems.
Sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned that, and I apologize.
No, it's all good. I mean, it's robust, right? It can work with any CRM that's out there, as long as the data structured.
It's not a third-party tool. It's actually API to API, and that's really important, because it also means it's extendable, and also means that, for example, all of the data you might want to choose, you can see quite easily. There's no third-party components or updating a third-party module. It's direct.
That's a good point. I mean, usually if you're integrating like an e-commerce platform to NetSuite, right? Often, if you don't buy NetSuite Suite Commerce, of course, you buy a Shopify, but then you need to find a connector somewhere to connect up those 2 points. And then if something goes wrong, who do you talk to? Is it the website? Is it the connector? Is it Liberate IT? Yeah. Except for Liberate IT, we'll take ownership for that. But the premise is the same, right? So, okay. Well, no more questions have come through, Tom, which is good. You've obviously answered all those.
No problem.
So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
We hope this video gave you the information you were after. If you have any further questions, get in touch with us using the links in the description.